Every team in the NFL needs to improve their roster between now and week 1 of next season, but let's face it, guys, some needs are far bigger than others. And with that, I have my wish list for the 5 biggest team needs that will hopefully be addressed here in free agency and ahead of the 2024 NFL Draft. Up first, the Philadelphia Eagles need to add some resources into their secondary, honestly at both cornerback and safety. Now, unlike some of the other teams we're going to talk about, the Eagles aren't actually losing any key contributors to free agency. The bigger issue is the fact that the incumbent players just simply weren't very good last year, and Father Time is now coming for them. They are old.
Look at her. She's old. You can't just take her stuff. She's too old.
There's Darius Slay, who turned 33 last January. Also James Bradbury, who's going to be 31 in August. The same is true for midseason addition Kevin Byard. And oh hey, Sidney Brown sadly suffered a torn ACL late in the 2023 season, making him iffy to be 100% by week 1. Regardless, guys, a ton of help is needed for a defense that allowed more total production to opposing wide receivers than any group other than the Washington Commanders. Fantasy Life's Matthew Friedman has the Eagles addressing this need in a major way in his latest 2024 mock draft, selecting Iowa cornerback Cooper DeJean with the 22nd overall pick. Now, the Great White Hope is certainly someone that's going to have a lot of interest out there, potentially in the earlier parts of the first round. That said, Eagles fans would be thrilled if we were able to add both an influx of youth and talent to a secondary that badly needs both. Up next, guys, I want to talk about how the Bills need to do a little something to their wide receiver room here. 3 key points. First, Gabe Davis and Trent Sherfield, unrestricted free agents. And just judging on some of the murmurs we've heard, specifically Ian Rapoport noting several times, kind of out of nowhere, maybe got a little phone call from a certain agent, that Gabe Davis is considered one of the more underrated and best wide receivers out there on the open market. Wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing maybe not Kenny Galladay level money, but enough cash thrown at him by a separate suitor to make it unlikely that he re-signs in Buffalo. Second point here, Stefon Diggs has maybe already played the best football of his career, and believe me, that was some great football. Nobody can take away those 3.5 years of goodness that he brought to the Buffalo Bills upon being traded from the Minnesota Vikings. That said, guys, Khalil Shakur outproduced this man in terms of receiving yards during the second half of the season on less than half as many targets. Bills fans don't need me to remind them about that big time deep drop Diggs had against the Chiefs in the divisional round as well. Again, not saying Diggs needs to be pushed out the door or anything like that, but at a minimum, I think we do have to question if he can still be a week in and week out top 10 wide receiver in the year 2024. And my third point, the Bills need an influx of youth into this wide receiver room through the draft for once. Okay, guys, it was all fun and great that they traded that first round pick to get Stefon Diggs. That worked out. But if we don't count that, the Bills actually joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the only 2 teams that have not used a single day 1 or day 2 pick on a wide receiver over the past 5 drafts. Now, again, both these franchises, the Bucs with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, AB for a little bit of that time, and the Bills with Stefon Diggs and even getting some, good contributions from guys like John Brown, Cole Beasley, and Gabe Davis over the years. I'm not trying to say this wide receiver room was all of a sudden a negative over the past half decade of action, but that's in the past. A lot of these guys are gone and Father Time has come for the others. So please, for the love of God, Brandon Beane, let's use one of those first 3-round picks on wide receiver and see what happens. Luckily, Matthew Friedman has the exact same idea, and he actually has the Bills taking Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman in the second edition of his 2024 mock draft. Sticking in the AFC East for our third key team need, let's get the Jets some actual help on this offensive line, specifically at tackle. Both left tackle Mekhi Becton and right tackle Dwayne Brown, by the way, 39 years of age at this point, are unrestricted free agents, and even bringing them back, guys, not necessarily guaranteed to help matters for a group that was one of just 5 teams to be a bottom 10 PFF graded offensive line in both run and pass blocking. 27th in pressure rate last year, and just tied for 18th in rushing yards before contact per carry. We're going to need to see some major improvements across the board here in order to make life easier for now 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers and rising third-year stud Breece Hall ahead of 2024. But hey guys, never fear, Friedman is here, and he has the Jets rectifying this problem by selecting stud Penn State tackle Olu Fashanu with the 10th overall pick in his latest 2024 mock draft. Hey, I sign off on that. Let's go ahead and get Aaron Rodgers some real protection and see what happens in 2024 and maybe beyond. Up next, guys, another offensive line that badly needs some additional resources added to it. I'm talking about the Tennessee Titans group of big uglies up front. Now, this group already has a bottom $5 figure attached to their names ahead of 2024 per the fine folks at overthecap.com. And we're talking about PFF's reigning 32nd ranked group after last season. So yes, things were bad last year, and they were supposed to be bad based on the amount of talent that was available. So before we overly worry about adding too many playmakers to the fold, let's try to make sure we can actually win a little bit at the line of scrimmage, and this was sadly apparent in both the run and pass game in 2023. Overall, the Titans were the league's third worst offensive line last year in terms of both pressure rate allowed and rushing yards before contact per carry. The latter figure actually does a better job explaining Derrick Henry's regression in terms of yards per carry over the past couple years than really anything else. Consider, guys, Henry's top speed reach in 2023 was actually faster than what he managed to accomplish in 2019 and 2020. Not saying that we're all of a sudden going to see Henry play the best football of his career next season in Tennessee or wherever the hell else he lands, but just realize, guys, this dude's still been averaging over 3 yards after contact per carry like clockwork. Maybe, just maybe, give him a big badass offensive line again, and we could see him return to at least something closer to the 2K King Henry era that again was taking over the league just a few short years ago. Friedman's fix, Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt. Sign me up for that one. And finally, guys, the only quarterback room we're going to talk about because, oh my gosh, the surrounding offensive environment is just that freaking good. Yes, that's right. The Atlanta Falcons, who, yeah, it's about time to go ahead and move on from Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke at this point. Honestly, the fact that they did even enter last season with Ridder and Heineke, probably the wildest thing we've seen since a guy trying to decide between Muhammad and McLovin for his fake ID. The experiment went pretty much as expected. Horrible. Only Mac Jones had a higher rate of turnover-worthy plays than Desmond Ridder last season. And honestly, guys, just per my own watching eyeball test sort of analytics there, nobody threw more horrific interceptions than Desmond Ridder, especially when the game happened to be on the line. And again, it's one thing to have a player in an offense with very few avenues to go with the football, behind a bad offensive line, no run game, things of that nature. We can try to add some context to bad, QB performance out here. We don't have that in Atlanta. This is a pretty damn great offensive environment. We got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and to be fair, Arthur Smith, now moving on to Pittsburgh Steelers. We've seen some history of him, particularly with the Titans, drawing up some pretty efficient passing games. So yes, I do think we can put this problem more squarely at the quarterback as opposed to some of these other bad offenses from 2023. I tried to quantify this by making a bit of an offensive environment ranking statistic. Basically took every single team's PFF grades in rushing, receiving, and blocking, everything except passing, averaged them out and wanted to see again who had the best supporting cast of characters in 2023. The answers, yeah, you'd probably expect the top couple teams, the 49ers, the Lions, the Ravens, the Dolphins, the Eagles, followed by the Rams, the Bills, the Cowboys, and that's right, at number 9, your Atlanta Falcons. Personally, I would love to see the Falcons go ahead and try to make a trade for Justin Fields and see what happens there. But if not, JJ McCarthy at 108. Maybe they feel some type of way about Bo Nix, Michael Penix as more of a round 2 option. Regardless, guys, we just cannot go back to the well with Desmond Ridder, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. They all deserve better. That's it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Holler in the comments with any other specific team needs that you are just dying for a squad to make here ahead of free agency. Actually had an 8-part article series go live on fantasylife.com for free, going through each and every division's top 3 needs per team out there. So a lot of work went into that, and accordingly, we're going to have a lot to look forward here once legal tampering goes ahead and gets started in just a few short weeks. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.